been fortunate to coach a lot of great defensive players, but be talking about Lawrence Taylor now, that's a whole different conversation.
When it comes to all things NFL from a real standpoint, there's only one place in the world that you can get it, and that's right here. So sit back and relax as we take you through another intriguing video on the NFL legend Lawrence Taylor, focusing on the one question on everyone's mind: how good was Lawrence Taylor actually? Before we begin, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you don't miss out on our videos weekly. When we talk about the greatest players in NFL history, there's always a name that pops up: Lawrence Taylor, or as many know him, LT. Now, here's the thing. Lawrence Taylor wasn't just good, he was game-changing. A player who didn't just fit into the sport, but redefined it. But how good was he really? Let's break it down in a way that even non-football fans can appreciate. The early days, from North Carolina to the Big Apple. Before we jump into Taylor's impact on the NFL, let's start with his origin story. LT wasn't one of those kids who grew up dreaming of playing football. In fact, he didn't start playing the sport until his teenage years. Taylor initially gravitated towards baseball and only turned to football when he got to Lafayette High School. Fast forward to college and he became a dominant force at the University of North Carolina, where he played linebacker and cemented himself as one of the best defensive players in college football. By the time the New York Giants drafted him as the second overall pick in 1981, he was already being hyped as a future superstar. But that's the thing about hype, it doesn't always match reality. So, did LT live up to it? Well, let's just say he didn't disappoint. Lawrence Taylor, an All-American standout from North Carolina, was picked first round by the New York Giants and went second overall in the 1981 NFL Draft. At 6'3" and 237 pounds, he came into the league like a storm, making his presence felt right away. In his rookie season, he racked up a whopping 133 tackles, 9.5 sacks, 8 passes defended, 2 forced fumbles, a fumble recovery, and even grabbed an interception. Not bad for a first year. Taylor wasn't just good, he completely redefined the outside linebacker position. His aggressive, attack-first style changed the game from a more reactive approach to one where defenders brought the heat. It was clear from the start he was something special, earning first-team All-Pro honors in his first 9 seasons. With his crazy speed and brute strength, he could outrun or overpower just about anyone. Starting with Taylor's rookie year, the Giants began a decade-long streak where they made the playoffs 6 times and won 2 Super Bowls. One of his best seasons came in 1986 when he was named the NFL's MVP, something no defensive player had done since 1971. That year, Taylor dominated with 20.5 sacks, 105 tackles, 5 passes defended, and 2 forced fumbles. Then there's the 1988 game against the Saints, where he played through a torn pectoral muscle wearing a harness just to keep his shoulder in place. Despite the injury, he recorded 7 tackles, 3 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles, helping the Giants pull off a 13-12 win. Throughout his career, Taylor tallied 132.5 official sacks, not counting the 9.5 from his rookie year, since sacks didn't become an official stat until 1982. 1,088 tackles, 33 forced fumbles, 10 fumble recoveries, and 9 interceptions. He made the Pro Bowl 10 times and was named to the NFL's 75th anniversary all-time team in 1994. Talk about a legacy. A linebacker who played like a defensive end. You see, before LT, linebackers had a specific role: stop the run and cover short passes. But LT wasn't having any of that. He completely rewrote the playbook. Taylor came into the league like a wrecking ball, and coaches quickly realized that he wasn't a typical linebacker. He rushed the quarterback with the speed and ferocity of a defensive end. His presence forced opposing offenses to change their entire game plan. You couldn't run or pass with LT in your face. So how good was he in terms of numbers? LT finished his career with 132.5 sacks. Not bad for a guy whose job wasn't even primarily to rush the quarterback. But stats alone don't tell the story. His impact goes beyond the numbers. Change in the game, the birth of the blindside blocker. Lawrence Taylor made dominating the football field look effortless during his time with the Giants from 1981 to 1993. He was a force to be reckoned with, using his aggressive style and sheer physicality to terrorize opposing offenses throughout his incredible career. Along the way, he picked up 2 Super Bowl rings, an MVP award, and was named Defensive Player of the Year 3 times. Oh, and he made the Pro Bowl 10 times, just for good measure. In 1986, he topped it all off by leading the league in sacks with a jaw-dropping 20.5 takedowns. Not bad for a guy who changed the game. One of the best indicators of Taylor's greatness is how teams reacted to him. He was such a destructive force that he essentially created a new position, the left tackle. Taylor's ability to sack quarterbacks coming off the edge meant that the offensive line needed to evolve. Teams began drafting bigger, faster left tackles just to deal with him. Protecting the quarterback's blind side became a critical aspect of offensive strategy, and it's all because of LT. Think about that for a second. One player was so dominant that teams across the league had to retool their entire approach just to contain him. That's not something you see every day, and it's why Taylor is often mentioned among the best players ever. Rookie sensation, breaking the mold from day one. Lawrence Taylor didn't wait long to show the league what he was all about. From the moment he stepped on the field as a rookie, he was a game changer. In his first season, Taylor recorded 9.5 sacks and 133 tackles, helping the Giants to a 9-7 record. His performance was so outstanding that he became the first and only player to win both Defensive Rookie of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year in the same season. The NFL had never seen anything like it. LT wasn't just a guy who came into the league and did his job. He came in and changed the entire narrative around defense. He made linebackers cool. The fear factor. Opponents knew he was coming. Part of what made Lawrence Taylor so good was the fear he instilled in his opponents. Imagine being a quarterback knowing that LT was lined up across from you, and no matter how fast you got rid of the ball, he was coming for you. That's what guys like Joe Theismann had to deal with every time they played the Giants. In fact, LT is infamously known for ending Theismann's career with a gruesome leg injury. It was a defining moment, not just for Taylor's career, but for the league. It was as if the NFL collectively realized that LT wasn't just playing the game, he was altering it. Taylor's relentless pressure off the edge forced quarterbacks into hurried decisions, often resulting in interceptions or botched plays. He didn't just sack the quarterback, he broke them mentally. Off-field struggles, the flawed legend. Now, it's impossible to talk about Lawrence Taylor without acknowledging the darker aspects of his career. He struggled with off-field issues, including substance abuse, which could have easily derailed his playing days. But here's what makes Taylor's story even more compelling. Despite his struggles, he never let them affect his on-field dominance. In a weird way, these flaws make him more relatable. He wasn't perfect, he was human. But despite all that, he remained a force of nature on Sundays. His off-field issues might have shortened his career, but they didn't tarnish his legacy. Awards and accolades. A trophy case overflowing. When we talk about LT's greatness, it's hard not to mention the accolades. He was a 10-time Pro Bowler, an 8-time first-team All-Pro, and a 2-time Super Bowl champion. Oh, and let's not forget that he won NFL MVP in 1986, a rarity for a defensive player. In fact, Taylor is only the second defensive player in NFL history to win the MVP award. To put that in context, most MVPs are quarterbacks or running backs, offensive players who rack up yards and points. For a defensive player to win the MVP, they have to transcend their position. Taylor's 1986 season was one of the greatest ever for a defender. He racked up 20.5 sacks that year, terrorizing offense and leading the Giants to a 14-2 record. Legacy, a name that still reverberates. Lawrence Taylor's legacy isn't just cemented in the numbers, the awards, or the broken offensive lines. His true legacy is how he reshaped the linebacker position, and by extension, the entire defensive side of the game. Before Taylor, linebackers weren't seen as the kind of game wreckers they are today. Now, every NFL team is looking for the next LT. Spoiler alert, they still haven't found him. In many ways, LT laid the blueprint for modern defensive players like Von Miller, Khalil Mack, and TJ Watt. These guys owe part of their careers to Taylor, who showed that a linebacker could dominate games the same way quarterbacks do. The ugly. Lawrence Taylor's struggles with drugs started early in his career, back in his rookie season during 1981-82. At first, he managed to dodge the NFL's drug tests by using his teammates' urine samples instead of his own, but things quickly spiraled out of control. His drug habit escalated to the point where he was spending thousands of dollars a day on cocaine and partying. His first wife, Linda, even had to rescue him from a crack house once. In one wild moment, Taylor showed up to a team meeting still in handcuffs, courtesy of some ladies who were trying out new gear but couldn't find the key to unlock him. He took it all in stride, but the signs were there. By 1987, he tested positive for cocaine for the first time and admitted to using it. A year later, he failed another drug test, which led to a 30-day suspension. That was the wake-up call he needed, and he managed to stay off drugs until his retirement in 1993, knowing a third failed test would end his career. However, after leaving football, Taylor admitted that drugs felt like the only thing that he had to look forward to. In 1995, he went to rehab twice, but over the next few years, he was arrested twice for trying to buy cocaine from undercover cops. His life became chaotic, filled with drug users, and he later admitted his home was practically a crack house at one point. Reflecting on that dark period, Taylor said, "I had gotten really bad." In spite of this, it's hard to discount the achievements he made in his career, which includes 10 Pro Bowl appearances and 9 first-team All-Pro selections. He was named NFL MVP in 1986, a rare feat for a defensive player, and led the league in sacks that same year with 20.5 takedowns. LT was also named NFL Defensive Player of the Year 3 times, cementing his legacy as a defensive force. His accolades didn't stop there. He helped the Giants win 2 Super Bowls, bringing his intensity and leadership to every game. Even after retirement, the honors kept rolling in. Taylor was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1999, and in 1994 he was named to the NFL's 75th anniversary all-time team. Simply put, Lawrence Taylor was and still is a legend. So back to the question, how good was Lawrence Taylor actually? Let's sum it up. Lawrence Taylor wasn't just good, he was revolutionary. He came into the NFL and immediately shifted the balance of power toward defense. His speed, power, and football IQ were unmatched, and his ability to disrupt games forced offenses to evolve. He was so good that the league had to adapt to him, not the other way around. Was he flawed? Absolutely. But that just adds to the mythology surrounding him. Taylor wasn't a perfect man, but on the field, he was as close to perfect as a football player can get. Whether you look at the stats, the highlights, or the way he changed the game, one thing's clear. Lawrence Taylor wasn't just good, he was legendary. That's all we have for you today, and as always, if you want to stay in the loop and get all things NFL from a real fan perspective, hit the like and subscribe button.